Hallo liebe Freunde, es ist schön hier zu sein, unser erstes Interview für die Pixelwarte. Wir sind hier bei Koch Media auf dem Stand und wir dürfen euch exklusiv vorstellen John Bloch, executive producer from Metro Exodus, and we're going to do that in English. So my first question, Mr. Bloch, very nice to have you here. I'm really happy because for us, small blog is a great honor to have great content from something that is such a long narrative already. So my first question is actually what makes Metro Exodus different from other survival games? What makes it unique?
Something that's always defined the Metro series, across all three games now, and obviously the Redux as well, is that they're very story-driven, very atmospheric, very realistic, very immersive games. We try really, really hard to put a lot of effort into to make sure that when you sit down to play Metro, you don't feel like you're playing a game. There's your screen that you're sitting in front of, but it's more like a window into the world, and you kind of get transported through. We try to do a lot of things, minimal HUD, all the attention to detail, a lot of that love and care that goes into really crafting an experience. More so than just a game. I mean, it's really important to us to make sure that people get lost in it and really feel like they're there. They're assuming the role of Artyom, our main character, and stepping into his shoes and really taking over from there and defining who he is as a character and what type of experience that you're going to have as a player as you move through this experience.
Does the character live with you already for a long time? Is he part of your family, like in a virtual way, or how do you consider him being so deeply involved in this production?
Well, I mean, Artyom's been with us, since the beginning of working on this Metro series. First one was released in 2010, I believe. So it's been, he's been with us for quite a long time. He's been the main focus of the stories, at least in the games, and. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely part of the family.
Right.
He's one of us.
It's important because I guess once it will happen. Maybe you will have another product franchise involved, like a video or I don't know, like a series, TV series. And when I see how much focus you put on that character, without putting him out only in the game. Yeah. I wish I could read more. I could go more into background, but there's a lot of stuff around this guy.
Yeah, well, the writer of the book series, Dmitry Rukovsky, he's written 3 books now in the series, but he's also expanded the universe with other authors that have written stories in other cities, I can't personally speak to his plans for the series.
Right.
We're focused on the games and how we can take Artyom's story specifically further from what was established originally in the original book, Metro 2033. But I think there's definitely a rich universe there. That's
right.
For sure.
Is the surface where the radiation is less a space that is designed to somewhat reduce the tension for the player?
Well, I think things like the radioactive areas where you need to use the gas mask, that increases tension. It is another thing that the player has to manage on top of something jumping out at them from around a corner, or an enemy that they have to fight in some way. And that's also something that's been a very deep-rooted part of what makes Metro as well. I mean, there's these horror elements and tension elements, and kind of a level of anxiety that the player has to manage when they play the game. And we didn't want to lose that in Exodus, even though we were opening up the spaces and creating these more sandbox-style areas that, as you've seen in some of the trailers, some of them are quite large and quite open, but we didn't want to lose that feeling of tension, so we've tried to make sure that even when you're out in the open, you don't know what's, even behind that bush, you don't know what's around that building. There's always danger lurking out there, and whether it be something like a radioactive cloud, an underground bunker, or something like that you have to go into that's creepy, claustrophobic. we still try to make sure that all of those feelings, all of those uncomfortable feelings that give you pause and make you kind of nervous about moving forward, those are all still there. So.
What is special about setting the game in a rather provincial part of Russia?
Well, I mean that's another key aspect to Metro. At least from the beginning, the stories have originated from Russia, and I think it makes it kind of unique. There aren't very many games that are made about the Eastern European area, Eastern European cultures. And so I think Metro kind of stands out, in that aspect, where we get so many games out there are made from a Western perspective, or even an Eastern perspective, but the Eastern European perspective isn't really that represented in the gaming world, and I think it's really something that makes Metro special. And it's also special that the core team that has created this from the beginning, is originally made up of people that come from that region as well. And so it's something that I think we've said in the past that it would be a completely different game if this game were made entirely by a Western development studio.
Yeah.
There's these aspects of culture and life and everything that someone growing up in a different country just wouldn't necessarily understand and really be able to capture.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a really cool and unique thing that comes through in our team. Our team is more diverse now. We have people from all over the world working on this, but it still maintains that core feel of being like the game takes place in Russia, the story takes place in Russia. You feel like you're transported to Russia. It's a post-apocalyptic Russia, but that is there in every detail of what we do.
How big is the team that is working on it?
So now we have about I think it's 70 developers in Malta and about 80 in Kiev. So we moved our headquarters so the studio was started in Kiev in 2005, and we moved the headquarters from Kiev to Malta about 4 years ago. Actually, exactly 4 years, it was August, 4 years ago. And since then, we've expanded our numbers, a bit from that point, but we still maintain, development equally distributed between both locations.
But I mean, if I see the quality of the game, I just had the honor to see it like 3 minutes, and I just looked around, I saw the textures. I mean, it's a small team for this kind of game. I mean, it looks...
It's still a relatively small team for what we're making, and I think it's something that we're pretty proud of, that we're able to accomplish something that stands up there with other AAA titles and much larger teams, and I think it's a testament to our team's skill and passion and love for what we're doing, and love for trying to make this experience that we love as well.
It's very amazing. Why did you choose the novel Metro as a model for your game? Why is it suitable for a video game?
So originally, when we started working on this, I think there was so our creative director, Prof, I think he had found the novel online before it became a published novel. When it was, I think Dmitry had it online as like a free story that you could read, and it wasn't. I don't think it was even the full length of what the published novel ended up being. He found it, liked it, contacted Dmitry. I think Dmitry already knew of Prof and the guys from GSC Game World before when they worked on Stalker. And so there's already kind of knowledge from both sides of each other. They connected, talked about the story, talked about how maybe this would be something cool to make a game out of. Dmitry finished the novel, released it, and then we worked on 2033 and we worked on Metro Last Light. So we've had this connection with the author from the very beginning. The first book certainly lent itself to being made into a game. The first game was pretty faithful to the novel. Dimitri's second novel went in kind of a different direction, and working with him, we mutually agreed to create a new story for Metro Last Light that was still in the universe. We created that with him. And again, with Metro Exodus, we've been working really, really closely with him on this story as well. His book, Metro 2035, actually leads directly into the story of Metro Exodus. So we've had a really, really close relationship with him from the beginning, trying to make sure that we're staying faithful to his characters and his world, and building upon it in our own way, and telling our own stories, alongside him. And I think we've had a really good, close working relationship with him over the years.
That's cool. That's very important, I think, because that's culture. We're talking culture. So. To what extent is the concept of a novel metro, considering the tube stations giving shelter to different social groups, realized in the game?
Well, certainly in the first two games, it's everywhere. That's where the games exclusively took place, right? It took place in the metro system, in Moscow. This game now takes the player outside of that. You go on this epic journey, across the continent over the course of a year. You see all 4 seasons. You see all these new different places. Some of them are outside. Some of them, are in the wilderness. Some of them are, in city areas. Some of them are, just like various different places. So you get to see a lot more variety in the types of environments. But again, going back to what I was saying originally, we didn't want to lose that. Like we don't want to lose that feeling of what Metro is, because it's really important to defining, how this series kind of stands out on its own. And so in designing these new open spaces and retaining those feelings of claustrophobia and all that, we still want to make sure that when the player sits down and plays this game, yes, there's some really new and interesting things and some unique things that we're bringing to the table with our new kind of version of sandbox gameplay, this mixture of the linear gameplay with the open areas. That when the player sits down, they still feel like it's a Metro game, even though it's something new and unique. We didn't want to go too far in a new direction, that it was just something completely different. It didn't really make sense to us to do that. We wanted to still, again, make sure that when you sit down, you're playing Metro, even though it's new and you have a lot more options and freedom in how you play.
Great. I would like to have some numbers. How many players are playing that IP, this Metro IP, for how long already?
Oh, that I don't know. Those numbers you'd have to talk to Deep Silver about. Yeah, I don't actually personally know those.
Because culture-wise, what you just explained before, because Russia, there's. I think it's very important what you said, to have this kind of game to bring people not only the fear of the unknown, but to also bring cultural issues together. So what is very Russian in the game? Like small details, like things that you have, like tea, or I don't know, something that are very, maybe you have something that you...
Well, in general, any of the, for instance, you go to, in the demo that you played today, in these houses, you walk in and you see items that, you would find in Russia. They're not like, products that were made in the Western world necessarily. Like, it's stuff that, it's that level of authenticity. I mean, even some of that permeates into the weapon design in the game. There's a weapon that one of the back sight, it uses an old Russian coin with a notch cut into it to be that, the back of the iron sight, right? There's a lot of care and detail put into making sure that all these things are accurate. I mean, just the way that bricks look, the way that a building is constructed, the materials used, all these things, they're we think about these things, in great detail, and a lot of care and time and energy is spent in making sure that these details are accurate.
How many times have you been to Russia already?
Personally, I've been there a couple of times. I don't know, we might be showing up there soon to show the game. I think we announced our what did we call it? The tour. It's a hands-on tour.
Cool.
So I think we'll be at Ivermere soon.
It's very good, very nice. I really, especially in those times, I think it's important to bring even the younger people to this, and make them understand that we have a great country in front of us with a deep culture. I mean, I just say Tarkovsky, for me as a filmmaker, that is like eating bread, and it's very important. Thank you so much. It was great. I had an awesome time with you, and thank you so much for providing with all this information. Is there something you need to say to the German audience, something important you want to tell those guys?
I mean, for fans of the series that are looking forward to this third one, I hope that you see the care that has gone into making sure that even though we're bringing you something new, that this game is true to the series, and it will feel like a Metro game, and we're not sacrificing anything that you've loved from the previous games. We're just trying to bring you a new experience that builds on everything, and I hope you like it when you pick it up February 22nd, 2019.
Thank you so much, John Bloch.
Thank you.
Great pleasure. Thank you.